big life changes bring big financial questions. Whether you're navigating a career shift, having a baby, or adjusting to life after divorce, this podcast is a safe space for real, practical financial information. I'm your host, Roland McIntyre, owner of Mountaintop Wealth. I'm a certified financial planner professional with over a decade of experience in the financial industry. In each episode, I will help you navigate life's money peaks and pivots by skipping the judgment and focusing on solutions to turn your uncertainty into confidence. No jargon, no fluff, and most importantly, no shame. Your climb starts here.
Did you know your phone could be key to getting your dream home? Welcome back to Peaks and Pivots. My name is Roland, and I am a certified financial planner, and I'm so glad to be with you today. We are going to be talking about getting that home and using one of our key assets, one of the things that we carry with us no matter where we go, whether it's to work, to the bathroom, or anywhere else. We always have this little thing beside us, and that's that phone. And we want to utilize this phone here to help us hit one of the biggest goals that many people have, and that's getting that house, getting that home that they've been searching for. So that's what we really want to dive into today. And stick with me. We're going to try to give you some actionable steps, some things that you can do to really get that house and use the tool that is already in your hand in a responsible manner. Let's really start out with the initial prompting of actually figuring out what type of home you want, whether it's Redfin or Zillow or whatever app that you use to search for homes. Utilizing your phone app will be one of those apps. It's going to be one of those things that many people tend to do. And it is totally fine and natural to download these apps and start to do that, window shopping of looking at certain homes. The thing is that people start to look at homes that they really like, they really enjoy, and they start to get a little bit of sticker shock and start to not really actually move forward with the process and never move forward because they start to see the dollar amounts of how much it's going to cost to purchase a home, and it can be a little overwhelming. Some people will just stay in this phase of just, hey, it's fun. It's fun to look at the houses. It's fun to look at the neighborhoods, to see what's on sale, what has been sold, how much is it selling for. That can be all fine and well, but when it comes down to actually following through and getting started, you really want to not only get a sense of what type of home that you like, what type of neighborhood that you like, but you also want to know, can you afford it? And that's what we really want to get to, is starting to figure out how much can we actually afford. And a lot of these apps actually have these advertisements on the sides of them, or these little pop-ups that actually show realtors. And one of the first things people do is they see a home, they see maybe it's offered by this realtor or this real estate company XYZ, and then they reach out to the realtor and want to start the conversation of actually purchasing a home. Usually at that point, you're a little too far ahead of the game. You're already reaching out, calling that realtor, saying, "Hey, I see this house available on Zillow, and I want to take advantage of it." Maybe a little bit too soon. I would say hold your horses there a little bit. There's some other things that we need to take a look at first. That looks at our finances, and those realtors are going to point you back to a few other people to make sure, or should point you back to a few other people before you're actually ready. Now, they want to actually have you as a client. They'd love to have that conversation and sit down with you and walk through the process, but you don't necessarily have to reach out to that realtor first. You can really try to get your ducks in a row by looking at your finances. Have you saved up any money, anything? Are you practicing good financial habits? Are you actually putting money aside for emergencies? Are you putting money aside in a home fund, whether that's for the down payment, whether that's for the furniture, whether that's for the renovations? All of these different things are going to come into play as you go through this home buying process. And if you're not necessarily ready to buy the house yet, we need to at least be starting to plan for it and at least putting money aside for it, because this is one of these expenses that's going to be quite large, and it's actually going to take not only you putting money aside, but actually having your financial documents in order as well. And that's what goes to the second item, your financial information. How much are you making? How much is your spouse making? How much is actually is coming in the house actually after taxes? How much is coming into the house, or how much is actually your gross income? Because that gross income is actually going to be something that is looked at as well. So let me take a second and explain what is gross income versus net income. Gross income is that money from your paycheck that is before the taxes come out, before the health care comes out, before the retirement comes out. It's that salary amount that you probably received on your job offer letter that said you make $100,000 a year, or you make $150,000 a year, whatever the dollar amounts are. That's that gross income number. And that's going to be an important factor to kind of know actually before you start reaching out to professionals in the real estate industry, so you can actually give them some information to show that you're ready to take this next step. So I would definitely say that's one of the things that you can do, is to know how much you're making. You also need to know one of these things that actually gets people a little bit confused is also what's called your debt to income ratio. And the mortgage officer, who's going to be the first financial professional you talk to, is going to help you with this and help explain this to you. But you knowing this going into the process can be really helpful. So we talked about your gross income, but we also need to talk about your debt and how much you're paying on that debt on a monthly basis, because this is going to factor into your debt to income ratio. So figuring out how much you're paying on debt on a monthly basis. So that goes to student loans, that goes to if you already have a mortgage, if you have any credit cards, if you have any installment loans, or any other, your car loan. All of these are different loans that actually factor into actually calculating your debt to income ratio. So by you having these numbers and knowing these numbers in place, it gives you an idea of what you're dealing with before you talk to this mortgage officer or the loan officer at the bank, whichever one you choose to talk with. You being prepared and actually knowing a little bit about the conversation helps you. You do not want to talk with a financial advisor or a mortgage officer or a bank officer without knowing some basic information, so that you're not, especially with a real estate professional that is earning money from commission, because they're in a position to actually, one, help you, but also they can give you misleading information that can tell you, hey, yeah, you can afford this home, but how bad is that going to stretch you financially, because you're really wanting the home? They can really have you buy a little bit too much home, or actually buy a house a little bit too soon, that can put you in a long-term financial situation that's not beneficial to you. So just owning a home is not necessarily enough. You need to be able to have a home that you can actually afford, and that's allowing you to build and grow other things as well. It shouldn't be a hindrance for you to actually do other things financially. So getting the gross income, knowing how much you're paying on a monthly debt amount, and then we can do that calculation for the debt to income ratio. So the debt to income ratio is simply calculated by taking your monthly debts divided by that gross monthly income number. You can actually add that. You can add up all the income that you have, and that's going to be that bottom number. If you're looking at, if you're doing this division style, so on top you'll have the monthly debt number. So add up that car note, add up any credit card debt. If you don't have any debts, this makes it a lot easier, right? But if not, If you are in a situation where you do have debt, these are the things that that mortgage officer, before any loan is going to be approved, you can actually start getting into place. So as you have these things, you can add them up, get the monthly debt amounts added up. That once you get your total, take that total monthly debt amount and divide it by that gross income amount. That may be two incomes. If you're married, it may just be one income. Now, include any other additional income that you may have as well. But that gross monthly income is going to be is going to actually tell you. It's going to give you a percentage. It's actually going to give you some number like let's say 0.30 or something of that nature. You just take that and multiply it by 100, and that's going to be your debt to income ratio percentage. That number is going to be very helpful for you actually knowing whether you can afford a home or not. And the number that you really want to look at, or the range that you really want to be at, is really actually below 36%. Now, these days, houses are so expensive. They are so expensive. So you're going to people run into the issue now of the house that they really like causes them to have their debt to income ratio potentially be a little bit too high. But let's just say that your debt to income ratio is, let's say 50%. That's just too high. That means that your debts are about 50% of your income, and we haven't even considered a mortgage on top of that. Or if you're replacing one mortgage for another, how is that going to factor into the calculation? You got to think about some of these things. So get at least that base level. I'm not trying to tell you that you need to know every single financial ratio. There's plenty of others out there, but I would certainly say know your base level as far as where are you currently, and then let you go into that conversation with the mortgage officer, that you now have some piece of information that's going to help you. One other thing that you want to take with you, or at least know generally, is your credit score. How are you doing financially as far as paying those debts? Are you paying those debts on time? How much, the size of the debts, all of those different things factor into the credit score. But knowing that, as well as the debt to income ratio, are going to be two big things that are going to help you get what's called pre-approved from that mortgage officer. That pre-approval process will actually let you know a general range of how much of a house you could potentially buy. But that range is enormously high, because they're going to tell you, hey, you're pre-approved maybe up to $500,000, but you probably shouldn't get a $500,000 house. If that's the top of the range, I would highly, highly suggest you look at your financial situation and actually look at those debts and things that we talked about earlier, so you can know, like, hey, that's going to be eating up. Let's say if the housing costs are eating up, again, 40, 50, 60% of my paycheck, then I have to live off the rest of that. That means the other 40% or the other 50% would have to be for everything else that I'm doing. The food, the entertainment, the lifestyle that I want to live. Actually, I'll have the house, but can I actually put things in the house? Can I afford to have a child? So there is some type of, some life decisions that also go into place when you're looking for a home, and some other things to think about. If you're looking at getting that home at all costs, that may be something that really hinders your future, because you see it, you want it, and you're like, I have to find a way. And you get in this process and you get stuck, and you just want to keep going until you get the house. But each step that you're going forward, you need to be ready. So I don't want you to jump out there too soon at the process. It's okay to get pre-approved. Now they may pull your credit and check, okay, to see if you're actually ready for that. That slightly takes a hit to your credit, but they're just pulling that credit to make sure that you are a credit-worthy buyer. So once you have that pre-approval, now we can start having conversations with the realtor, and the realtor can know that you're serious and they actually have someone that is potentially qualified to afford the homes that they're looking at. Now the realtor will take you a little bit more seriously. You can have some of those deeper conversations about the schools in the area, the parks in the area, the crime rate in the area, the type of home that you're looking for, whether it's a 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath type of home. Now you get to do a little bit more of those fun things and more specific things specifically for the affordability range that you're in. So now we can start shaping that opportunity that you're looking for with a house. Now the realtor can get a better idea of financially where you are and your preferences. That can be very helpful in the process. Another thing that you want to look at are the different type of loans types that are out there. You may have heard of VA loans. You may have heard of conventional loans and FHA loans. These different loans actually will determine, remember those savings that we were talking about earlier that you need to have set aside, how much of a down payment you're going to need. This also could factor in as far as funding fees with things like the VA, where you may actually have to pay an additional amount because maybe you don't have to make a down payment, but they're going to add an additional amount to your actual mortgage. So all of these different factors you can talk through with the loan officer and the mortgage officer. Even you can talk to individuals at a bank. But what I've found is actually talking to at least three different individuals in that field can really help you out. So you can get an idea as far as the preference, how are they helping you? Are they teaching you, or are they just or is it just a transactional situation where they're just asking for the information? They're not coaching you or letting you know the process. They're not letting you know what's next. They're not helping you find what documents you may need, because it's going to be a lot of paperwork. When you are, hey, I'm a certified financial planner. We deal with plenty of paperwork. But trust me, when we bought our home, that paperwork, the stacks and stacks of paperwork before you even purchased a home, and then after you purchased a home, when you're sitting at the closing table, oh my goodness, it is a ridiculous amount. Even some of the things that are available on DocuSign that you have to do and get this process set up is still a large amount of paperwork to do. And it's just part of the process, and you want someone that's going to be able to be patient with you and talk with you, and that you can actually get a vibe with. Yes, that's helpful, but you also want them to be knowledgeable as well. So it's not just, hey, likes, but just, hey, I like this person, it's a friend of the family, but you want someone that's experienced and knowledgeable, and who's going to tell you sometimes, no, that's not right for you. Someone that's telling you, hey, maybe you want to reconsider this, or is giving you information that they actually have that experienced eye to notice, can be very, very helpful. And if they're not doing those certain things and everything's just, hey, fine, you like it, you want to buy it, cool, we'll just sign the paperwork. That type of relationship is not really beneficial for you. They're just there coasting along at that point. So you want to make sure, whether it's the loan officer or the real estate agent, or the financial advisor that you're working with, these people are helping you and teaching you along the way. Are they actually giving you examples in ways that you can understand? Are they actually keeping up with you as far as the conversations, whether that's over the phone, text message, video calls? I've definitely seen realtors actually do these video calls where they'll show you the home or show you certain things that they found at the property. So there's certainly different ways that you may actually get to see their expertise other than just knowledge. It is personality. It is also flexibility. It is also using tech. So all of those different things can be factors in actually helping you make a wise decision when you're choosing your real estate and financial professionals. Now, once you have an idea of, okay, the house that you're wanting to get, the mortgage officer is also working on first, okay, what type of loan are we using? How much of a down payment are we going to have? Is that going to be 5%? Is it going to be 3.5% for a FHA loan? They're going to work through all of those different things for you to see if you qualify for these different types of loan options. There is the USDA mortgage type, where you can, if you're in rural areas and you're purchasing a home, there's actually a website where you can look for properties, and it's another way. It's just another loan type that you can take advantage of that some people don't take advantage of. Another thing is benefit are down payment assistance programs. You really want to look up certain zip codes where the certain state that you live in may say, hey, if you are living in this particular zip code, we'll give you a down payment assistance amount if you stay in the home X number of years. You also may have that from the federal level as well. So you really want to do, yes, you want to do your own personal research, but you also want to have conversations with your realtor and or your mortgage company who you may be working with about these type of opportunities. Down payment assistance programs can be hugely beneficial. Now, I want to take a second because you may have noticed this one thing I really haven't mentioned, and that's interest rates. And those are one of the things that have been driving people mad since the pandemic. And it is one of these situations where you have to be understanding of the times. It's not 10 years ago where when I purchased my home and I was able to get a rate for well under 4%. It was around 3.5%, 10 years ago. Now you're looking at double that amount. It's about 7% for a mortgage. For an interest rate for a mortgage these days. And there are ways you can buy down rates. There's things called points that your mortgage officer can talk to you about, where you can buy down the interest rate. There's all types of programs that are available to you. Now, with these type of programs, you may want to get a second opinion before you jump on one of these things, because the interest rate will be there. So you really want to look at these different interest rate options that are going to be available to you, not just from the mortgage officer, but maybe from a financial professional that's not actually involved in the real estate transaction, because they have no financial compensation involved in the transaction, whether you make the deal or not. So someone like myself can really sit down and talk to you about actually what these points are, how that actually affects the purchase of the home. Actually, as far as this interest rate, how long are you going to be paying, let's say, any PMI, so that's private mortgage insurance on the property? How are all of these different things that are moving and changing on a regular basis, how are these actually going to affect the decision that you make? You can certainly talk to that mortgage professional that you've hired, that you trust. They're a good person, but hearing it from someone else can be very, very beneficial in the sense of you, for not only your personal understanding, but also to make sure as a protection mechanism for yourself. So really looking at the interest rate, actually not worrying about, hey, what happened a long time ago, that's in the past. You want to look at what's going on now. This is not necessarily saying that, hey, you should wait till the interest rate drops to 1% because interest rates are going to only go up, or they have to go down because the economy is bad. You don't want to base this decision based off of whether interest rates are going up or down necessarily. What you want to make this decision based off of is your financial situation and your personal situation. Is it actually the right time, and is the right environment for you actually to make this decision? Because you just had a big job increase or pay increase is not necessarily the reason why you should just immediately buy a new home. Now, personally, I did that, and I made sure that we were well within the pre-approval, well below the pre-approval number that we were actually afforded. But it was one of those decisions where it's just assumed, and I purchased my first home early in my 20s, mid 20s. So that's where I was young. I was wanting to get into that house. I wanted to build equity and all of these different things and help my family. And yes, it can be generational wealth, but it's still, even as a financial professional, you still get a little bit of that excitement, and you can rush a little bit too much and actually overextend on some of these decisions. So I would tell you to take a step back, actually get that second or third opinion before you take that next step, especially when it comes to the different things like interest rates and down payment assistance and points and things of that nature. Now, one of the things I'm very solid on is making sure you have a fixed mortgage, not one of these you may hear it called the ARM or an adjustable rate mortgage. If you're looking to purchase a home for the long term, you want a set interest rate. You don't want to necessarily be having that change dramatically as the interest rate changes. That goes back to what we were talking about earlier. We don't want our fate related to our home to be tied to the stock market or the housing market. We want to actually be able to control as much as we can in this process, and having a fixed interest rate along that for that 30-year mortgage or that 15-year mortgage actually makes a little bit more sense, because you're giving yourself certainty. You're going to give yourself a little bit more understanding, and you can actually do better planning when you have an idea of how much your mortgage is going to be each month. Now, you still have things that are going to fluctuate, like your property taxes each year. That's going to change regardless. So when you were renting, you didn't have to worry about property taxes. Well, you do now. So congratulations. Another thing that may change over time is the homeowners association's fees, which I had as well. These may change as the neighborhood evolves, as the services that they offer evolve. Sometimes they can be a nightmare. Just check TikTok, check Facebook, Instagram. You can see some HOA nightmares there. So you want to do some investigation there. But the price, that's an additional cost that you have to factor in addition to the mortgage, in addition to any other things like real estate taxes. These are things that and I say real estate taxes, I'm referring to property taxes. These are the other things that people forget about when they're thinking about actually purchasing the home. So all of these things are things we think about on the front end. We also look at our maintenance costs. How much is it going to cost to maintain this home? Now, you have maybe rented before and you haven't had to fix the leaky faucet or toilet or whatever the case may be. Well, now you're going to have to be coming out of pocket to do these things, making sure you're taking care of the lawn, making sure you're taking care of the AC unit that will at some point cause an issue. And these things can get pretty expensive. So yes, you need to have savings for purchasing the home, but you also need to have savings post-purchase to actually be able to afford the breaks and the repairs and the new things that you want to add to the home once you get in. Because most people, once they buy their home, they want to make it theirs. It's a blank canvas, as folks say. It's blank. And then they really want to get into actually doing all of these things. But there's all of these little small costs that are adding up into this purchase. So if that is something that you're going to want to do, you need to start planning it out and having that conversation with a financial professional so you can actually start getting a dollar amount of how much it's really going to cost you to purchase the home, not just the interest rate and not just the purchase price amount for the mortgage, not just the down payment amount, not just the closing costs, but it's things like the homeowners association fees, the property taxes, and the maintenance costs that are also those sometimes can be considered hidden costs or phantom costs that people don't think about. So be on the lookout for those. And now that you are getting ready to actually finally make your purchase, or you've made the purchase at this point, there's other little things that pop up, things like appraisals, home inspections that need to be done and have those due diligence things done. A lot of people during 2020, let's just say 2021, as housing prices started to shoot up, a lot of people were waiving these things, saying no contingencies. Hey, I'd like to make an offer on this house, sight unseen. It was basically housing mania going on. And they were getting into houses and they didn't know the state of the actual house. They didn't actually know what was going on. I highly, highly encourage you not to skimp on your home inspection, not to skimp on the appraisal of these little things that you're like, oh, these just little knick-knack costs are really hurting my planning for the things I wanted to do to the home because I can't get these things. Hey, these are things that are going to help you long term, and you are making a nearly $500,000 plus decision maybe for your future. So I really want you to think about making those little investments for yourself, because that may completely change whether you would buy this house, because there are little things that contractors messed up on. It's things that people miss. So you really do want people to be coming in and double checking that before you make the purchase, preferably. And because after that sale, trying to get back in touch with these people can be a nightmare. So I want you to get it taken care of on the front end. Now, I know I just hit you with a lot of parts with housing because it is a lot. It takes time. When I purchased my home, it took about 3 to 4 months for the entire process to actually get through it. We had to provide tax return documents, our wages for our W-2s, any debt or anything that we had at that time. We even had to have paperwork for our child care that was a factor into actually getting approved for the actual mortgage. After we had already been pre-approved, you still have to be approved once you actually make an offer on the home. So that was one of those things. So it's a lot is the point here. There is so much when it comes to purchasing a home, and you're going to need people to actually help you and teach you along the way. Don't just depend on that one person. Don't just depend on that realtor, or don't just depend on your mom or dad to help you make that decision. Hire some financial professionals that are going to help you along the way. It's great to bring family members with you along with that process, to be a second pair of ears to bounce things off of and have a conversation with. You don't have to do it alone, but you can have a professional come with you as well to listen to some of those situations and those conversations, so they can actually explain it to you in a way that's more understanding to you, and also cut out some of the salesy things that may be involved in there too, so that you don't feel forced to make a decision or a rushed decision like, hey, this house may only be on the market for a few days. Hey, there'll be another house. There might be another opportunity. Looking for that dream house can be something that actually is a sales tactic that people are using, that, hey, this is the one. This is the only one. You will find another house. This is not your marriage. This is not your family relationships. The house is very important. It is a long-term thing that is expected to be in your life for a long time, but you can find another house. So keep that in mind as you make these decisions. Don't marry the house before you even buy it. So it's one of these things that you really, really need to take a step back on, actually plan for it, start putting some money aside now, and start having conversations with your financial professional, a mortgage officer or banker that can really start to help you start putting the pieces in place for you to make this big financial decision.